Hi there, this is Jackson O'Brien. I'm the Coffee Educator here at Peace Coffee, and I am going to show you today how to make a Chemex. The Chemex is a marvelous brewer. It is the prettiest brewer I know of. It's the only brewer that is part of the Museum of Modern Art's permanent collection. It produces around 2 to 3 mugs of coffee worth at a time, so it's great if you drink a couple of mugs a day or if you just want to share with a friend. And it's also just an attractive little pitcher to have in your home. I love this thing. So in order to brew our best Chemex, we will need the following things. We will need a Chemex brewer, we will need some filters, something to measure your coffee with, ideally a scale, and a grinder, and a kettle. You can get away kind of fudging a couple of these things, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but this is the really ideal setup for making a Chemex. So first what we're going to do is we're going to prep our brewer by getting our filter ready in the brewer. Chemex filters are a little weird. They are literally squares of paper that have been folded into quarters. In order to use this as a filter, what you're going to do is take one corner, pull it away from the other 3, and load that in so that the thick side is against the spout. We're now going to rinse that filter, use our hot water we're going to use for brewing. Just want to get the whole thing saturated. This does a few different things. One is it warms up the brewer. The warm water is going to warm up the walls, the glass walls of this brewer, and that's going to make sure that the brew water is a consistent temperature as you brew your coffee. Number 2, it kind of adheres the filter to the sides of the brewer. That way, again, the water exclusively flows through the brew bed. Number 3, if there's any kind of paper taste to this filter, this is going to rinse it out of there. Secondly, we're going to measure our coffee. For this particular brew, we're going to use 45 grams of coffee and 750 grams of water. It's going to be about half a cup worth of beans, half standard dry US cup. In case your scale got stolen by dastardly villains. 750 grams of water is also 750 milliliters of water, 3/4 of a liter, which you can measure with a measuring cup. We're going to grind this coffee, and we're going to grind it slightly coarser than your standard drip grind. Should be right around the same size as Morton kosher salt. I'm going to use setting number 18 on my Baratza grinder here. All right, now our coffee is ground. Put this in here. I have my kettle full of 200-degree water right here, and we're going to tear this out. We're going to do our first pour, which is called the bloom. For this pour, we're just going to get the coffee grounds wet. Should take around twice your dose pour, around 90 grams. Tastes a little more, that's fine. The important thing is that we are just getting everything completely saturated and completely wet. As that happens, the coffee is going to kind of swell and bubble. We're getting rid of the CO2 gas. It's part of the natural roasting process of coffee, and as a result, making it so that the water can more easily penetrate the grounds and evenly extract flavor out of it. Once it finishes bubbling, we're going to do our first pour. We're going to pour up to 200 grams in here. You can pour in a spiral, you can pour in a zigzag, doesn't really matter. We just want to get everything wet. And then stop and wait for about 15 seconds. As we wait, we're going to observe that brew bed on top of here. We're going to look and see where grounds are clinging to the sides of the filters and where grounds are floating on the top of the slurry. And on our next pour, we're going to kind of focus the pour on those points of the brew bed. For our next pour, we're going to go up to 400 grams. Once again, want to make sure that everything gets wet. Pour nice and slow. Once you've done your second pour, we can do the exact same thing as we did before. Just look at the brew bed, wait those next 15 seconds or so, and just observe where things are floating, where things are clinging, and then we can focus our pour on those spots We're gonna do our next pour up to 600 grams. Now we wait. After about 15 seconds, we're gonna do our last pour. Hopefully at this point, everything at the top of the brew bed should be pretty clear. We should be seeing that slurry breaking up, see some bubbles breaking up at the top of the slurry, and no real dark spots of grounds floating. We're just going to pour slowly, practically right up to the top of the glass, just until that scale reads 750 grams. Once we've done our last pour, we sit back and we wait. It should take around 4 to 5 minutes total between when you first start pouring and when that last drip finishes dripping through for the brew to happen. If it takes too little time, you're either grinding too coarse or pouring too fast. If it's taking too much time, then you're grinding too fine or pouring too slowly. You'll want to kind of iterate that a couple of times. Find what grind works for you, find what pouring pattern works best for you. All right. Our brew is now finished. We're at those last few drips, which means that we can now take this away, throw that into our compost bin, and enjoy ourselves a nice cup of coffee. That's how you make a Chemex. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a little something, and I hope we helped you to be able to brew you. Skål.